I never had. My phone is going not now, but soon it will be out of battery.
Put the charge.
Now.
Put the charge.
No, how it will be standing?
It will be standing on the stove. Nobody touches it. Yeah.
Okay, Antonio, we are out of battery.
Good thing that in this house we have a lot of corks to support the phone. That need to be charged.
But Luis, number one, just because I'm tasting this, so this is 2015. Roleta Russa, so Filipe Pato, you Pazzo, William Waters, and it's beautiful. And I think again a super example from Bairrada.
Okay, yeah. I don't know why, because Flip and William, do they ever make good wine?
But
It was an accident for sure.
for sure. Going back to winemaking, so you were saying, so if you're saying this is the winemaking from the 90s, what is the winemaking now?
I'm not saying from the don't you?
You said it.
Exactly.
I didn't say it. You said
We
it.
have a tendency and we have an evolution in general in Portugal, and I still think that today we're still preserving many things on the wine that they cannot be kept on the bottle, and we are trying to preserve everything that is obvious and in that works in a generic wine, but on a good great wine you have to go beyond that, and that thing of trying to preserve a specific
Fermented fruit,
a specific nose that you can never, it's harvest time, that nose will never stay in the wine, so forget that. I only smell the wine to detect any fault. It doesn't matter if it smells amazing or not, and I tend to prefer the ones that don't smell anything, because they tend to open later. So we have these moments, and I think it's very specific of a certain time, of scores, of the way that we analyze the wine in immediate terms. So many times we taste wines blindly with 30 seconds for each wine, and we score the wines in a way that is not the way we want to drink them. And once you realize that, I think you want to get back. And in many times, especially in the beginning, if you start producing, you're fighting because you have to explain people, I'm sorry, the same thing in the white. I would explain people the reds. They can today, drink it tomorrow, in the next day it's going to be much better. And say, well, if anyone comes to the restaurant, should they bring me 2 days before to decant the bottle for them?
but it's completely different. And I think this is a great point. Is the good thing about restaurant is that it's just there. Well, number one, most of the markets are not exactly in the vintage we are. So the vintage plus the restaurant, so there's a delay there. And second, the wine is in the restaurant for a week, a month, doesn't matter. So I think there's a completely different, for me, I have a completely different experience than from taking a bottle to someone. It was in the car, it was agitated.
Okay,
it was,
yes. No, that's one thing.
You want to put it down.
Okay, what you're saying, for me, it's one important thing. It's all the small details to preserve a bottle.
Yeah.
So if you want to work with low sulfurs, not doing much, those wines will suffer if they're not going to be well kept. Good temperature. If it spends 3 days in the summer in your car, it's going to be fucked up no matter what wine it is. Always like that. If you don't preserve it well, if you don't have the right humidity, those wines are going to suffer a lot. So everyone is speaking today in certain kind of wines that have less intervention, less sulfur, less everything. Those wines suffer. You cannot buy those wines in the summer, put in the truck, travel from Porto to Lisbon, or from Lisbon to Algarve, or from Porto to Algarve, and expect that the wines are going to be exactly the same thing as the wines that I put in my cellar and I take from that cellar straight to drink.
Yep.
It's never going to be the same thing, and that's very important.
What you were
Especially in a
justifying
warm
is that
country like Portugal.
your wines are undrinkable when they open them, and they need
They
3
always
days.
It's just an excuse. It's just an excuse.
You need to hold them a week in your house.
I always tell
Massage them.
the one was not good. Bad transport. You know, it's not my
Did you
fault.
drink it? No, minimum 3 days.
No, I think that is one thing. It's you really need to be careful about it. And so many places, so many restaurants I've been, and they had old bottles, and I want to buy everything. And I learned with the years that don't do that. You know, old colares, reds. You know, in all the restaurants near Guincho, Cascais, all the bottles are gone because they were kept in the room, and of course in the room with all the sun. No, this is very cool here. Okay, it is. It's 25 degrees.
Let me take you back on track. So you gave 1990s winemaking, and and of course it is what it is, and it's now say 1990s winemaking in the world. So it's not just Douro.
Yes, it's early 1990s, early 2000 in the world.
Douro in the world. In the world, generally speaking. Yeah. So it's trying to get as much ripeness as possible, aging it 70% new oak, and percentage of malolactic in barrel.
When they were young.
Sorry?
To be impressive when they were young.
And is this, I think I always conflict with this, you know, the more I read about the past, are these wines that they are conflicting in this idea of wines to drink and wines to celebrate? So wines that get a sip of it, imagine the little portion, the little port portion, it's just so, it's like you get a little, before you got a little thing of that, and it would be any of these wines, you get just that little portion and you were like, wow. So it's the same thing of a blind tasting, you know, you have this, just one sip, and then the conflict is that in reality it's not just to celebrate; it's actually to eat with, drink with, and so then that's where it stands short.
It's more than that. We go back to what I said when I said an old-fashioned person, meaning it's the wine.
No, you said you were
years.
Classic. You didn't say you were.
Sorry, old-fashioned.
You said I am a classic, and I think that's amazing because you will become a classic, but maybe
one day eventually. No, the question is, if you have wines to drink it now, not necessarily the wines to age, and we are not thinking the wines in a long terms, because the wine business is also not done in a long terms, because the life today it's not done in a long terms. So everyone will tell you, everyone will taste your wine and judge your wine after 2 years. How many?
Well, but that would
wait. How many of the wine critics, journalists, whatever, will judge your wines after 10, 15, 20 years? There's not time for that because there are so many wines.
No, they will judge it if you show them. It won't. I think this is truly my opinion. I think so. My first vintage is 2004.
Okay.
And what I think is that your history will help people to understand your current wines. So, so this is why I think you should taste my older vintages old, because I think we all gain confidence, and I think your point perfect was, it wasn't if they were too oaky or too fruity, it was that after 10 years or 15 years they didn't last. This is the problem. The problem wasn't the beginning. The beginning is up for discussion. Either too rough, too oaky, too fruity. While they're young, they have problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is, and this is the big theme, is eternity. Does this formula, either for Douro, Alentejo, or Tuscany, or Napa, is this formula going to? Is this the wines that will age? Is
But
this
the
the
question
wines?
is, okay, but the question is, nowadays, do you need a great wine to age? Are you going to have many people drinking
Well,
the
if you
wine
have
done
kids,
today?
of course, yes.
That's what you're saying. How people are going to live? I don't know about that. Do really people are going to drink my wines in 30 years' time the wine are done today?
Well, if you
Probably
don't
not going
keep
to be
them,
here
no.
anymore.
If you don't keep them, no. No, but
No.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that point, and I think you agree. Why are we drinking Posto Lobo? Because they kept it.
Because they have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Oh, you kept a lot of your wines for me to buy the old stuff?
No, I would love to. But
You see?
I come from very poor coming, so it's I cannot afford that
Like me,
type of
I have
luxury.
enough to give for myself, not to sell it afterwards.
I have a little
I don't
bit.
have enough money, sorry.
I have a little bit. So 2004, my first introduce, I have very little. Then 2005, I have a little bit more.
Okay. Able
People
to
were
sell
saying,
in the
like,
world.
aren't you keeping anything? I need everything to pay for the next vintage. But I would agree. I would say that this idea that it's not as much if people are actually drinking it in the future. It is a little bit, and then we, and I would say in our circle of people, will be drinking these wines for sure. But it's more what it stands for the producer. So if I taste, let's go to a good example, Soalheiro. I always, my perception of Soalheiro was that the wines were too flirty. So this was my perception of the wines in general. But when I taste the old vintages, they're beautiful wines. So, well, amazing if your wines can be flirty, young,
Yeah.
and they can be, and they can age.
And age.
Well, okay, so
That's perfect.
I don't care. So it's amazing.
Is
So
Luis, I have to ask him, is Luis seeing us? We need Luis on this call, Luis Ribeiro. Because I think the wines had some changes along the years. And the wines done 10 years ago are not the wines done today, and the wines done 20 years ago are not the same the wines done 10 years ago and the wines done today. And that's the interesting thing. And doesn't mean if it is for better or worse. It's just what make the changes. And sometimes are very simple changes, logistics, bigger winery, smaller winery, different vineyard. All of that make a difference.
But are you saying that the wines of today will age like the wines of yesterday or not?
I don't think so, but I have
Okay.
with Luis, I asked him many times because he does several bottlings. And I think forgetting everything else, one thing that for me it's very interesting in Alvarinho, but it's interesting in all the wines in general, white and reds, is date of bottling. The right date of bottling for me, it's still a mystery. I had a moment that I thought I knew everything. And, suddenly I realized that I really don't know anything.
But that was at 9 o'clock or?
That was 5 minutes ago.
5 minutes.
and that date of bottling, because he done several bottlings of Alvarinho. Of course, Soalheiro now have a big demand of the normal Soalheiro. So you start bottling January, March, Feb, and because I asked him several times, what is the wine is going to age better? The one bottle earlier or the one bottle later? I have the belief that the one bottle later will age better. He always told me, no. Actually, I have some experience that the early bottlings are aging better. That actually can happen, but it will be very interesting to taste this along the years and see the results.
And I agree that I agree that there are certain grapes, Alvarinho, and I say the grapes of Azores, I would say Riesling, that if they are comfortable with reduction, they are comfortable with reductive aging, meaning they are like the idea. I went to this the Alvarinho Monção e Malgaço Wine Fest. So, and I was in some of the tastings and I did some verticals. The wines that aged better of Alvarinho were the stainless steel ones,
Of course, yeah.
the reductive ones.
Yeah. In a short term, not in 20 years time or 30 years time.
At 20,
Because
30. We're talking 30.
30.
Yeah,
30.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I would say that
Yeah.
sorry, I have to eat something.
And they were giving me goosebumps because they're very Azorian to start.
Yeah.
So in blind, I would be confused. And they were. It's beautiful to imagine that the whites can age like this. So
I have to tell you one thing. I test several of the very old Soalheiro with Luis. I
yeah,
was lucky enough to take
a
many of
pleasure,
those.
a privilege. Let's say a
Yeah.
privilege.
That I have to tell that the best wines I've tasted, according to Luis' explanation, was the colder years where they left a bit of sugar. But of course, it's a bit of sugar that supports a little bit of the aromatics, and those are the wines that age better when you taste them 20 years later.
Okay.
When you do this season of stainless steel, and I think with the years, everything is diluted in the wine.
So are we expecting Seabra wines to be sweeter and sweeter?
I don't know. They tend to be
Okay,
dry.
well, let's wait. Back to reds.
No, but
Okay.
you know what? They tend to be dry, but the question is, they don't have the same acidity because it's in the malolactic. Eventually, they will not survive so many years. I don't know.
Okay, so whole bunch fermentation. Let's go back to
Okay.
reds. Whole bunch
Reds.
fermentation. Can I be provocative?
Should.
So whole bunch provides a certain profile, aromatic profile as well. So there's
Yes.
two things that are going to happen: the whole berry and the stem. So
And the stems. Yeah.
does it interfere? So if you're expressing Douro, does it? Is it a producer signature or is it a Douro signature? So this is
Any decision we make, we are interfering. So the person that does the wine, it's part of the terroir. Any decision, anything, doing or not doing. Yes, it's my choice to make a certain style, and using stems or not using stems not part of the terroir. It's my choice, but I'm also part of the place and of the wine.
okay. And so, but your interpretation now with your wines, I can share my opinion, of course, but in your interpretation, is it interfering with the place or not?
It is. Any decision is interfering with the place. It's again, there's no white and black. There's many shades of gray. Any decision.
Love the movie.
Huh? No, any decision we take, even if the decision is do nothing, we are interfering, doing nothing. Anything is, we are making something, adding something. So that thing of we do nothing, no. If we do nothing, it's already an option, and we are already interfering. Everything is interfering.
So
Everything.
you are interfering, but you are interfering with what goal? So when you do it like this, so what's your goal?
Well, I have a warm weather.
Yep.
I search to have freshness.
Yep.
And with the years, my belief, it's many of the green characters of the wine very quickly turn into spicy character. So everything that can have freshness to a red wine in a warm climate like the Douro Valley, I want it.
But this is stems, not
Stems.
the berries. The full berries is a different thing. So
Full berries, full berries, you know how it is. It's full berries if you have a total different profile of the fruit character of the wine.
Yeah.
It's much more elegant. It's much more sensitive. It's much lighter. And if I wouldn't use any stems, I would still use the whole berry every time.
Okay, so
What I really think
I
makes
have
a
on your,
difference.
I drank yours, so you just recently your 16 Shistu Cru, and what's the
You're
percentage
still
there?
alive. Good.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now it's starting to be alive.
No, you still alive.
I am still alive.
Not the wine. You still alive.
It's starting to be alive. So, but is that the winemaking there is
Well, winemaking of Shish to Cru, actually,
16?
winemaking always involves 100% stems. The Shish to Cru, the difference involves very long skin contact. So wines that done a whole bunch, minimum extraction possible. You still have to punch down every day, but twice a day. Very long skin contact can be 30 days or even more.
Very little extraction, 2 punch downs a day for 30 days.
Huh?
What's the,
No, very, very small extraction.
what you say is not lagar.
No. It's wood vat, open wood vat.
Yeah, okay.
You go up
So
with
what you're
your
saying
hand
is
and,
not very extractive compared to port wine standards.
No. You cannot. Me, in terms of Doru extraction, I'm not that even in the near planet. That's not
Okay, so no, but two punch downs a day. It's the same. Well, the classic would be 2 pump overs
exactly.
a day.
But imagine you have a punch down. Meaning you have the cap on. You can go with your feet. If it's too strong, someone go. You know, a lady will go with their feet, not with her hand. But it's really just to make it wet. You have this the thing here. You good just to get the juice up, and that's it. And you don't do anything
Any
else.
air?
Sorry?
Any air?
Air? It's an open wood vat. Open.
No, that's not. If you're putting any air during the, are you doing any pump overs? Any
Air.
air? Oxygen.
Air. It's an open one. There's a lot of air around.
No, there's CO2 coming out. It's a fucking CO2 chimney.
No. Nothing. No air
No, so
there.
it's reductive. So meaning it's not. There is during fermentation.
It's not. You know why it's not reductive? Because it's an open wood vat. There's a lot. There's enough oxygen there to have air enough. Okay, I will tell you a story. Many years ago,
I love it.
I arrived to a company, and they said, "This wine really, all the wines get reductive. Why? We don't know. This is not good to make wines." And it was really a bad vat. The ones that have the stainless steel and have the punch down system inside of the vat. Very tight. And this never give good wine. Why not? Okay, let's try it. And the difference is, if you don't add anything to the wine, nutrients at a certain stage of the fermentation, you don't try to speed up the fermentation. If you don't control that, and eventually if you add some stems, because you also slow down the fermentation, there's no reduction coming on, and you really don't need to work more or less, because the fermentation just goes slower, but it doesn't have any peaks.
No, but yeah, my thing, it's going back to this conversation of wines that we bottle reductive, meaning that they are reactive, and wines that we bottle that they are, let's say, Todonia in the edge.
Talking about reds.
Reds. And so my thing is, I am oxidative on my fermentations, so I like to introduce good amounts of oxygen during fermentation. So, of course, not too light.
Why?
Because I want to stabilize things. I want enough oxygen to stabilize color, to stabilize aromas. I want when I bottle my wines, they need to have passed the test of oxygen.
Can I disagree?
Yeah, of course. I can see you will disagree.
That stabilization only arrives after fermentation. Because during fermentation, you have too much CO2. And I think it's a maceration. Once you finish the fermentation, or the fermentation is very sluggish, and that's when makes a difference. The oxygen that I give in the beginning of the fermentation, in the middle of the fermentation, it's too much CO2. It helps nothing. It just makes the peaks of the fermentation to go much higher.
Oh, you viticulturists.
Can we finish now? Or I have to keep the this guy. But really, yeah, it's really my opinion. I think that will happen after, when the fermentation is already finished. When the fermentation is really active, it doesn't matter if you do 3 delestage and pumping over outside, because there's so much CO2 there and so much activity that is.
That's why you need to macro oxygenate. It's an opinion, and of course and I think it's I would say that if you grab, let's say, Burgundy winemaking versus Bordeaux winemaking,
yeah,
and so in a way that Burgundy winemaking is much more conservative on air introduction, and Bordeaux winemaking that is a much more active on oxidation.
Yeah.
I would say that it's really a theme. I agree that light skin grapes, they could go overboard. You can over oxygenate them, but I think for grape varietals of Portugal, they are dark skinned, they are tannic, they are.
Okay, but the difference is you cannot analyze differently vinification and aging. If you compare Bordeaux and Burgundy, it's not only the vinification is different, it's also the aging. So you adapt the aging according.
But when you say aging, you're not saying macerating, right? You're not saying maceration. So let's say that from the time that it's in the vat, let's say 30 days.
Yeah.
There's a part that is fermentation. There's a part that is.
Yeah.
So
I tell you, okay. To expand a little bit, when I started doing the wines in the Douro Valley, I would do much more rack-offs. Rack off the wines more often. Once I'm doing the wines with much less extraction, I need to rack off less.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just two different. It's not only the vinification; it's vinification, aging. Everything has to fit on the wine. So you adapt.
But final objective. So just I think also for everyone, final objective is, and I think there's something you said, and it's also something that of course puzzles me is. There was a moment of everyone that thought, the bigger the wine is in the beginning, the better it will age, and
everyone learned that it's not like that now.
No, and little by little, so you taste and you say, well, that's not the case. So I have wines. Actually, you say that entry wines of most of these big wineries are the ones that are aging better. So there is a contradiction here. We have to challenge this contradiction. Is that, well, maybe it wasn't. Same goes for whites of Azores, like the Coop. They had the entry wine and the second wine. The entry wine ages much better than the second wine for whites. The same goes. So the fine tuning is on the perfect. What is the right level of ripeness? Number one. Second, what is the right level of extraction? And third, I think two dimensions that I think I conflict with. I do two styles. I do reductive bottling. So I do, meaning that I'm
in reds.
In reds.
What does it mean, reductive bottling?
It means that I'm in certain way doing fermentation. I'm promoting oxygenation. So when I have a lot of CO2, but then I'm not promoting micro oxygenation during aging.
Okay.
So I'm protecting. So I want to take.
So you bottle how many months after harvesting?
I have 3, 6, 12, or 24, depending of the cuvées.
3 after harvest.
Touriga Vainua. You taste. My first vintage is 2015. You taste it and you say, Touriga. No.
I taste all your Tourigas. Don't worry.
No, but what's funny is that, every time people will ask, will this age well? I said, I have no idea, because it's a red wine bottled 3 months after it's done. I have no idea. And what's interesting is that this version is one direction, and it's a good direction. The bottling, the bottling early and the bottling reductive and the bottling reactive, it's one version. The other version is saying, no, what I want is 24 months of micro-oxygenation to get my wine stable.
Yeah.
24 or 8 years, Antonio.
Yeah.
So I want 8 years in cask, micro-oxygenation.
Forget the fruit.
Forget the fruit. I want to get this my wine stable. Where's the balance? So this, I'm throwing it back to you.
To me? Where's the balance? I don't have a clue. I think it depends on the wine. I really think it depends on the wines and on the regions. I think I'm telling Douro wines what I know best. Douro wines, the majority need a little bit longer aging. You know, there's a lot of people buying a certain style of barrels and I think this we need to age for a certain time, and normally for 1.5 years. Other areas maybe less. You know, I do a Castelão in the Douro. I only age for 1 year in barrel. I don't think it needs that much. The tannins are much. It doesn't have the same tannins that the other varieties in the Douro.
You mean it's less
there a
tannic
recipe
in Douro? Less tannic?
You think Castelão is tannic?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
This Castelão was nothing tannic.
Well, someone's saying here that Castelão is not tannic. It was actually very good.
His Castelão was not tannic.
No, but I think it's a grape that has compared to what? Compared to what grape?
Compared with all the other Douro
With Touriga?
standards, well,
More
with
tannins
all the
than
other
Touriga.
Douro standards, taking out Bastardo and varieties that don't have the tannins.
No, but compared
But
with
compared with
the
the others,
less.
I
Compared
think
with
it's
the
much
Arabias?
less tannic than the other varieties. I tell you, the Castelão that I do early harvest, because in Douro it's kind of short cycle. I would say that is very similar to a oxidative variety like Gamay, Grenache, that style of varieties that are not very strong in terms of tannins. And that's the way it be.
So give me, are you harvesting it before or after other grapes? Let me know.
Before everything.
With what alcohol?
Before everything, I tell you. First year, too much alcohol was almost 14. Second year, a little bit less, but it's always high alcohol, the first one to be high. In the Douro Valley, it's like that. And it's not like, I know that in some regions it produces more. It tends to be kind of very generous in terms of production. In the Douro Valley, it's not that generous. I think it's produced much less in the Douro, but it behaves like a very short cycle variety.
Okay.
And it's actually interesting because I was just recently tasted 16, 17, 18, 19. That's 4 years that I have. And the more I learn, the more I harvest earlier. And I think the more they are more balanced. And
when you need the
more
masterclass,
organized.
I can send you 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Are they from Douro? The most important region in Portugal? Come on, man.
No, but for me, to be honest, well, two things that are very interesting for me with Castelão. So I've always been regarding old vines, and we didn't speak about this, but old vines, filled blends, I always had a problem with it in reds. So with whites, I always thought it was something positive because there's a balance between freshness and fruitness, and because we're just taking this juice off. But in reds, it puzzled me how I'm so focused on getting the right ripeness, that small zonings, and it conflicted.
What is the right ripeness?
Of course, though. I'm not sure we have time for that. But the idea in my head is just about ripe. So this is an idea contradictory to the idea of hang time. So this is the idea of, and for that you need to micro zone, smaller zones. But in the old vineyards, what I understood that there are some grapes that are much more tolerant to not the right ripeness. Okay. So let's say if I harvest Castelão here with green beans still, you have a part that is ripe with part that is on the ripe, and you can take it.
Okay.
It's not a big issue for
and
Castelão.
With overripeness?
It's not a big issue for Bastardo.
Okay.
Sorry?
And with overripeness, and that Castelão harvest a little bit too late?
No, but that's the problem. That's a huge problem. Yeah, late is a problem. Late is a problem.
Okay.
But Castelão, for us in Alentejo, it's a late ripening variety. So it's after all the other grapes almost.
Seriously? Why?
And so that's why I'm
Does it have high yields there? No,
Sorry?
it cannot be. It's does it have high yields?
no, it's no, but it's in terms of it's after Armês, after Toriga, after Trincadeira, after
After Toriga, for sure, because Toriga is not from Alentejo. Okay, after Toriga, I agree 100%. After
Now, is it
Trincadeira,
from
I don't
Douro?
know, but after Toriga,
Is it from
okay.
Douro? Toriga is from Douro?
No, it's from down. Not from Douro, for sure.
It might be. Has a lot of kids there.
Oh,
But-
yeah. I have some old vines even in Vinho Verde with Toriga that I saw a few
Yeah.
years ago. That was really interesting.
But what I think of this grape, say Castelão, Tinta Carvalho, Bastardo, they are. So let's say the grapes that we've selected after all these years, they are more phenolic.
Okay, yes.
They are, and so you really need to get the ripeness
So
right.
you describe Castelão, Bastardo, and what was the other variety you mentioned?
Tinta Negra,
Well,
Sobrinho,
Tinta Negra.
and Tinta Carvalho, Tinta Carvalho.
Oh, Tinta Carvalho, not Tinta Negra. Tinta Carvalho. As more oxidative varieties with less tannic structure, less phenolic varieties.
No, it's interesting you say more more sensitive
More-
to oxygen. Yeah,
Less
Yeah.
phenolic varieties.
yeah, yeah. Of course.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but what the difference at Castelão from the group is if you extract, and this is the Castelão that we're doing, it's 30-40 days extraction, it's phenolic, it's tannic. It's a grape that is has some structure, and like I say, since you're coming here, I just found out, since you're coming to the winery, we can taste several Castelões, and it's a grape that it's not with a lot of anthocyanins, not a lot of color, but it has a lot of tannins. But the tannins are even unripe. They are there, but they're smooth. It's not like Aragonese that it's.
No,
Aragonese
Aragonese is even in Douro.
It's
the
like
tannins
in
are
the
always in your
front,
gums.
you know. It's like
gums.
Cabernet Franc. It's like
Yeah.
it's tannins that are in the back, and so. But it's phenolic. It's thicker. It's thicker than a Bastardo. It's thicker than a Carvalho. It's more
Then
muscular.
Bastardo, I would agree. Then the Carvalho, I don't have the knowledge. Compared with all the other Douro varieties, not at all.
When you say other, you mean what? For example,
Hey, all the others, just name it. I don't know. I'm just trying to
Barroca.
try to remember another less phenolic variety in the Douro. And Morisco maybe that is something that I don't even use. But
Morisco.
everything else is less tannic than
Okay.
than Castelão. It's interesting. So you have a totally different approach.
Temos aqui a Joaninha a dizer olá, boys. Olha, a Joaninha, Joana Maçanita.
Joaninha is still awake at this time of the night. Go to bed, Joan. What are you doing?
Então, olha, lembrei-me que aproveitar aqui para dar um abraço público do apoio que deste à Joaninha quando ela chegou ao Douro, por isso.
Eu não dei apoio nenhum à Joana, eu não dei apoio nenhum. Abri-lhe umas garrafas, não dei apoio nenhum. Zero. Bebeu umas garrafas comigo, mais nada.
Jantar uma bela mariscada, diz ela. E então, mas olha, então vamos a isto. 100% caixa inteiro, engaço para frescura, caixa inteiro. Então, um tema que eu via, ainda no teu tempo no Importo, era muito em Costa Norte. Atacava muito em Costa Norte, você.
Sim, quer dizer, é um bocadinho em Costa Norte, alto, tudo que for mais fresco no Douro é melhor para fazer vinhos e não para fazer portos. E é um bocadinho, não tem que ser tudo em Costa Norte. eventualmente coisas mais planas também são melhor que coisas mais
Não,
inclinadas.
eu achei ótimo porque eu estava na encosta do lado do sul, por isso
Estavas na Costa Norte, então.
estava no sul.
A diferença é que estás ao pé do rio e aquilo é o inferno onde tu estás. Mas pronto, mas ok, está bem. Não, mas tudo que me permita a mim fazer coisas mais frias, não é? Mais frescas, está bem. Eu não acho que haja uma regra, porque às vezes há uma encosta norte que até pode ser um bocadinho mais quente que outra encosta, mas tentar...
Já estamos a falar em português.
Sorry.
Master, já estamos...
Sorry.
We're speaking Portuguese now.
Yeah, because you started with Portuguese and then I went to the Portuguese. So. I think anything that brings freshness to the Douro wines and north-facing, high altitude, that's important. That's what I search for. With no rules, of course, because each area behaves in a different way. But yes, if I have to choose north-south, I choose north.
Okay, so as a provocation, so are you bending Douro? You're bending it.
Sorry?
You're bending it. So why aren't you doing red wines close to the river?
Close to the river?
South facing, close to the river.
I don't know how to do them. Not for me. Someone else can do it. I don't know how to do it.
No, but you know how to do it because you've done it. And so
no, I think
you don't want to do it.
Yeah, I think you find a way to do. If you want to do as less as possible, if you want to pressure as less as possible the wine to some direction, if I want to have freshness, I don't want to do south facing near the river, because if not, I have to push too much the wine to the direction that.
But that's not Douro for you.
It is Douro. It's the Douro to make the port wines, not to make the still wines. It is. And you want to know? Am I right? I don't have a clue. It's
no. But I think what I want, and I think this is very interesting, and I think this is why you and I've had some conversations about your positions. Is what I think it's interesting. It's a position, and so and that's very interesting because it's an idea that say, well, what I think it's the Douro as places that are for port and places that are for red wines. This is your position. It's your position.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. And being provocative the other way around. A lot of people haven't thought about it, but just do whatever. But a second understanding would be, okay, maybe they are. Let's start saying that they are more than one Douro. You have Douros that are they can give certain ripeness, and others that can give other type of ripeness. And that's what you're saying, because you're saying, I think this is for port. What you're saying is that this grapes.
Antonio, there's 1,000 different Douros, 45,000 hectares, in between 18 and 100 meters altitude, and 180 different varieties, and many different soils that people don't know about it. There's 1,000 different possibilities. That's why
but it's a comfortable. I understand what you're saying, and I agree. But it shouldn't be a escape box. So meaning
it's not escape. It actually is the opposite. We know nothing. It's not we know nothing.
No, but you have a position, so you know nothing, but you have a position.
I have my position, yes.
Yeah, it's like, I know nothing,
Strong
but
position.
those grapes are not coming in my wines, okay? And so why aren't they coming in your wines is because you think they are too rich, too fruity, too alcoholic.
Well, I told you in these 3 hours of conversation, I don't know what hour ago, that Douro.
How many hours ago?
Douro is always about too much. Mm-hmm. Everything is too much in Douro. Everything.
Yep.
So if I can choose, I have a little bit less than too much. And that's what makes a difference.
Yep.
Because everything is too much. You just fighting against something. So If I'm able to choose by the river or 500 meters altitude, I will go 500 meters, period.
Yeah, good. Okay, so you a whole bunch. How many time skin contact? So we are, to give you an idea, we are not. It's interesting because my winemaking, so seen a lot of different areas, and I've picked just popping. So I only pop berries. So I want them open but intact.
Okay.
So I don't want crushing. And this will be the rule. And gravity. So no pumps. So I don't have the extra
I agree
crushing.
with that 100% whenever I can.
Yeah. So this is the base. So I want a certain, again, same idea. It's to allow a control, smoother extraction. Well, not the idea. Smooth is just longer, controlled extractions. It's the best infusion extractions, so to speak. Reinforce with tannins lighter grapes. So lighter screen grapes, we're doing a little sandwich with the whole bunch in the middle. So Castelão, Carvalho, Bastardo, Saborinho, they have a reinforcement of structure of tannin with the stems. But so this, when you say the time of extraction, you say, well, you're not doing a lot of extraction. I mean, you're not doing the lagar thing.
I'm also doing the lagar thing, and that's what interesting. It's you don't have right or wrongs. I'm doing wines that are 100% lagar, very short skin contact, and I do wines that are more than almost 2 months skin contact. So I have the two extremes. And I think the wine done in lagar, even the way we do it, it's not you have the first cut that is a little bit more extraction, but then it's 1% as less as possible. So you can extend the lagar 8-10 days. That is already a lot for a lagar. I think the wines are very fruit forward. They are very good support on the fruit on the wines, but they tend to be a little bit more square. So you tend to feel a little bit more the limits on those wines. While when you do a longer skin contact, the tannins are much finer, much more complex and integrated into the wines. And the difference is you lose on the fruit. So for instance, the inexpensive wine, Chichi Limitado, it's part it's vet, part is lagar. So one will give the finer tannins and the other one will give the fruit of the lagar. And it's in that case, the style of vinification really makes a difference.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. And okay. Good. So we are reaching the 10 minutes, Seabra. So let's 10 minutes to finish. It's just 3 hours. And well, number one, I think we can do the goodbyes now. It's a pleasure, and I hope we see yourselves soon, and we can get some good discussions that we had. And I love your. I think the full of you in the all of sense wine person.
The stubbornness of me.
The full of you is really good.
He's taken.
She doesn't like the full of you.
It's taken.
She doesn't like the comment.
And so, second is, let's put it in it's really hard because Portugal is a challenge in a soundbite. And I think this is one of the big challenges we have is we are outside of the country, kind of doing little things, explaining our wines, but always explaining the whole Portugal. Like if you want to put it in a soundbite, what it is today, what it is Portugal for you, and what you love it to be. So, kind of to.
Okay, but in the style of wine or in what perspective?
I would say, yeah, it's a too open question. The question is too open. Let's too open. Now let's do.
3 hours.
Huh?
We don't. And that's another 3 hours, and I have to go to
Yeah,
sleep.
yes. Now let's go Douro. Let's go Douro. You know what it is and what you would love it to be. You would love it to be. Um,
No, what I would love it to be, it's more variety. You know, it's not one way. It's to have
yeah.
several ways, and to have more people doing, more people showing different things and different approach.
Yeah.
That is the first thing.
Less companies, more producers.
Well, doesn't whatever. Just
No,
have
but
more
you need
variety.
producers. You need producers. Yeah,
Newcomers,
yeah, yeah.
newcomers have
Less
open mind.
consultants, less me and you, and more.
Yes, please. That will be very interesting. But I think if you speak about Portugal, and I think it's not the question of being. I think when we taste wines blindly and we can say clearly, okay, this tastes like Portugal, and I think it's based on a few things that are common to any wine regions in different amounts. That is, tannin structure, fruit, and being warm climate, acidity, and then combined with these balsamic notes, medicinal notes, whatever people call it, because each one have his own way to call it, and that is common to Portugal. That is, being a warm area, you can find freshness, you can find the wines supported by the tannins, and I think this is a common thing, and it's very interesting because for so many times we're tasting wines and we're guessing by country and not by region, because somehow Italy always have more tannins than us, and we're just behind Italy. And then you have Spain, that you have American oak or not. And then you have France, that's a totally different approach. And I don't know what make humankind to divide the things in this way, but it really makes sense because we tasted and we say a country when each country have a totally different regions making totally different wines. For you
But
to
there
say,
is
okay,
something. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. That's funny because there's a warm cold, but also, and this is the complexity of terroir. There's warm cold, but then there is. Let's say that France is stylistic more stubborn.
yes,
So there is a strictness, as it happens with Douro and as it happens with Down. You know that they can't bend that much. The other day, someone sent me a text of a tasting in 2007 in a bottle shop in Lisbon, Parque das Nações. And he said, you know, you were giving us a wine course, and then we took you a blind bottle. And you started, I think it's down, but then I felt Cabernet. And I said, it can't be down. And so I ended up and said, well, maybe it's Quinta do Moro. And I got it right. But the reasoning is that I think it's Portuguese. Why, I don't know, because I feel that it's Portuguese. I think it's fresh, but then I felt that it had Cabernet and then it couldn't be. And I think that this blending of things but to say it tastes like Portugal, I think it's a problem because Bairrada is
okay,
one
no.
thing.
Okay, it's not like that. It's what make a good wine. The producer was stubborn. I think a lot of stubbornness always a stupid. Anyway, you always lead to the same thing. Need to be stubborn, make something. And can be very bad.
I would say
really get
great
very
wine. Good. Great wine is made by people that think by their own head.
Exactly.
And
they have to get wrong for that.
Yeah. So we still have 4 minutes, and so I would say that if I could hope for a better Portugal, it would be more of this moment. So more. I think there's a lot of good producers around, and a lot of good producers. So we had William there, Flipa, and Patrão, and so a lot of good producers. And I think if we can take it to another level, is more people. I look at the Burgundy Revolution and its people. I look at the Tuscany Revolution, its people. I look at the Piedmont Revolution and its people.
Always part of the terroir. Always part of the terroir.
Of course, in a way that they have, and we see that there's Baggerfans, there's Douro Boys, there's some associations that, and this is what to be stubborn is a quality. I completely agree, and so 3 minutes to finish. We are about to finish. Seabra, obrigado. 3 hours of conversation.
Well, I hope
I think we just scrapped the surface.
Yeah, well, of course, we need at least 6 hours. I don't know who the hell organized this conversation. Please,
Antonio,
Gio.
I told you a lot of times you need to come to this house. To this guy.
Let's organize the south. Seabra, quando é que estás disponível?
First there, and then you come up.
Yeah, we have a plan. Um abraço. Olha, vou fechar com vinho dos Açores.
Epá, eu não tenho isso aqui para provar, pá. O que é que se passa?
Não sei. Aberto a
Antonio,
semana.
it's last 2 minutes. Speak in English, last 2 minutes.
No, he's just speaking to me, Gio. Come on. It's less
Gio.
2 minutes. Yeah.
I'm happy to see that you're still standing. When you come here and when you're standing, I'll drop you.
I'm not sure.
Olha, Seabra, um grande abraço,
Abraço.
E parabéns.
Porta-te bem.
Sempre.
Porta-te bem. Yeah.
Filho.
Não descansa. Thank you, everyone. Obrigado, William. That was a stupid question.
I have to say to everyone that Antonio is much younger than me, and I cannot read anything that happens in my phone without my glasses. And Antonio can read all the messages. I don't have a clue who's here because I just cannot read them. I just don't have my glasses.
Seabra, grande abraço.
Tchau.
Okay.
Porta-te bem.
Bye, guys.
Okay, thank you everyone for
Ciao.
spending 3 hours.
Thanks you, everyone.
Two guys.
Who spent 3 hours for
Love
it?
it.
Looks 20 people still.
Just give them a medal. They want 3 hours with us.
Thank you everyone. Obrigado.